turn over the show to Drew to yell about the weather. So you can just go ahead and yell about the weather for like the next 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
The East Coast sucks. They need domes, retractable roofs that the owners pay for, that the taxpayers don't have to pay for. This sucks. You've got rain in Washington, forecasted rain in Washington, Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, which isn't on the East Coast, but is also experiencing storms. St. Louis. I mean,
all stadiums in the Midwest and the East Coast should have retractable roofs. Like, there is enough weather problems every single year. Like, it should just be a thing.
It's annoying. And, like, these are the worst forecasts. These are the most frustrating forecasts to deal with because they're all, like, 40 to 60% scattered thunderstorms. It's, like, enough that you know they won't call the game, so you have to deal with a decision. And it's enough that, you know, you're scared that someone else who has, you know, the stones to play players from that game could get a big edge on you. So it's the worst type of weather conundrum to deal with.
Yeah, and we've talked about weather a lot on the show. I'm definitely, I think out of all of the hosts on the show, I'm the most conservative. I think Laffy obviously is the least, which is weird, right? Because I'm in general, not a very conservative player at all. But just that prospect of getting a 0 or only getting 4 or 5 innings from a pitcher, that's the worst possible outcome for me in baseball. Like, we've had Laffy and Leone talk about it in terms of they're more willing to take a risk with the weather because they are the people who think that they can get an advantage by taking the risk if they don't perceive it to be as much as the risk. Tonight, there's no way you couldn't pay me to take Chris Sale tonight just because he is in probably the best spot out of all the starting pitchers, but I'm just not going. I'm not going to take that risk. In your short time playing, Derek, where have you? What side of this question have you fallen on most of the time?
I don't know. I mean, I guess in cash games, like definitely a guy like Sale in the position he's in, I'm probably going to avoid just because. I mean, he's in a great spot tonight, but I tend to lean a little bit more. I don't know. I really don't know. I guess it depends on how I'm feeling that day, and I know that's a terrible answer, but yeah. I think usually more aggressive than conservative, but
Ooh. Yeah, and I don't hate that. I wish I could play Chris Sale tonight because Sale is one of my favorite pitchers to take. He is in a really good spot with Swisher and Carlos Santana out of the lineup, but he's not in such a great spot that I can say the risk of him only going a couple innings or not getting a full outing supersedes Greinke versus the Reds, who are minus their best hitter right now. Like, I would much rather take Greinke versus the Reds tonight, even though I don't think Greinke is as good of a pitcher as Sale is, and I don't think he's in as good of a spot. So, all right, yeah. Well, with that, we might as well. That's a natural transition to talk about pitchers. So, who are you going with, Dink? Who's the number one guy on your list right now, and with weather concerns? What direction are you leaning?
Yeah, I think it has to be Greinke if you just don't want to deal with the risk. I mean, I also I'm not one to really shy away from 20% chances of rain or stuff like that, but when you get a whole evening forecast of 30 to 50% scattered thunderstorms. That's having to dodge a whole evening. It's not having to dodge one system that's rolling through in the middle of the game or something like that. So I'm more concerned when I see forecasts in the surrounding game window that are greater than 50% as well. So I'm probably leaning Greinke as the top option. I would have originally ranked them Darvish, Sale, Greinke, but Darvish gets scratched, so he's off, and now Sale has some weather concerns. So I'm just moving down the list.
Yeah, I probably would have gone Sale, Greinke, Darvish, but that's just sort of a personal thing for me because I'm just in general kind of more afraid of the Twins offense than the average DFS player, just because I've been burned taking pitchers against the Twins a couple times. I think that's more me than anything else. But Derek, who are you looking at behind Greinke? Assuming that as of right now, Greinke's your number one option.
Yeah, I mean, Greinke was my third behind Sale and Darvish, but, I mean, I'm much more willing to take a hitter in a game like Darvish is where it's 40 to 60% rain than to take a pitcher, because if there's a rain delay, then the pitcher's not coming back, the hitters are still in there. So I'm going Greinke #1. After that, I like Tim Hudson. He's out on the West Coast. No weather concerns there. It's clear. He's in a good spot. He's playing at home against a really weak Cubs offense, and a Cubs offense that strikes out a lot, which kind of plays into one of his biggest weaknesses, that he doesn't strike guys out. He has awesome control. He gets ground balls, induces a little bit of weak contact. But the Cubs are going to, probably prop up his strikeout total by a couple. So I really like him at home today. Are you on the Tim Hudson train?
Yeah, I like Huddy. And, I was joking with Derek before because he mentioned my lack of affinity for non-strikeout pitchers in his write-up today. But I don't like guys that, like, 6+ K per 9 I can deal with. It's like when Henderson Alvarez, who's got like a career under 5, I get a little bit freaked out by. So I don't mind Hudson. I would have Lester ahead of Hudson. Moving to the NL, much better park, Braves lineup that strikes out a ton. And really the big threat for the Braves is right-handed power. And Lester, does a decent job at neutralizing that. He faces a lot of it in the AL East with the Blue Jays and the Rays and stuff. So I would have Lester above Hudson, but I think Hudson's a very strong play as well. The Cubs are one of 3 teams with a team total of 3 today based on Vegas odds, the others being Cincinnati and, surprisingly, Detroit.
Yeah, I have Lester right behind Hudson. I couldn't blame anyone for going with him.
I would take Lester over Hudson, just because also this Lester got kind of shelled his last start out, so I don't know if this still holds true. But his K per 9 this year was the highest of his career,
That's crazy.
And I don't know, I haven't looked into it enough to see if there was, maybe if he's added a new pitch, started using a new pitch more, or if it was just sort of an early season noise type thing. But
he had that one game where he struck out 15 that I think is, and you can't throw it out, but when you're dealing in small samples, if you get one game that really distorts, well, I guess it's not, it looks like it was there in April before that game even, so I take that back. The K rate's been there all year.
Yeah, and so I think I like Lester's skills as a pitcher more than Hudson, and we've talked on the show a lot. Derek is I think is more on the side of this Braves offense is not as bad as they've produced thus far, but there are a lot of guys in that Braves lineup who just strike out a lot. That's just what they do. You have B.J. Upton in that 2-hole who that's just what he does. He is almost an automatic K. When he does well, when he does make contact, the ball goes a long way. But having a 2-hole hitter that is that unproductive, it's just really hard for an offense to be good when your 2 best hitters are sandwiching one of the worst regular everyday players in the league. So I think I'm definitely on Lester tonight, especially on Draft Street. I think his price tag is only 16K, and on DraftKings I think it's 9 something. I think that he makes the ideal second pitcher on those sites.
The one thing to worry about with Lester is just that the Braves are so right-handed. So he's got to face that. They only have 2 lefties in the whole lineup tonight.
Yeah, but those 2 lefties are 2 of their best hitters.
Yeah, those are the lefties are the guys you're concerned about. Yeah, so if he can find a way to get Jason Hayward and Freeman out, 3 times, then he's dealing with Chris Johnson. I guess Evan Gattis.
And Evan Gattis, yeah.
Gattis and Upton are very good hitters against left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 guys that you fear if you're rolling out Lester.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit less comfortable about using Lester in cash games than I was before the show because Chris Johnson is not great, but I still think that's the option you have to go just because Hudson, I don't know, Hudson just doesn't do it for me, and it probably is the low K rate thing is probably why. But the Cubs are one of those offenses kind of like, I don't know, maybe the Padres. The Padres have been so bad, but when the Cubs do make contact with the ball, it's like guys like Mike Olt, who are causing a lot of damage to your pitcher's score. He might strike out 3 times, but he also might hit, a 3-run home run. So I think I still think Hudson is below Lester for me, but I wouldn't blame anyone for going the opposite way. I will say on Draft Street, it's actually really easy today to construct a lineup with Greinke, Hudson, and Lester. You don't have to make any significant sacrifices anywhere to get those guys in, just because there is some really elite hitting value today, I think. So outside of those guys, is there anyone you're looking at as more of a tournament type pitcher? I think that one guy we have to talk about is Max Scherzer, who's up against the best offense in baseball by really any measure, but he's also probably been the best pitcher other than Wainwright so far. Is Scherzer someone you're looking to deploy in tournaments, Drew?
It doesn't bother me. The one thing about Scherzer is he does, for his career, have pretty wide splits. He's done a good job the last year and a half of narrowing that. But, since 2011, the stuff that we track, he's allowed a 331 weighted on-base average to lefties and 1.14 home runs per nine. And specifically gives up, power to lefties, a 435 slugging percentage. And that's kind of what the A's do. So that's the thing that worries me a little bit. Moss is really the big threat, but they've got other left-handed power with Reddick as well. So I don't mind him in tournaments, but I think if I was going to go with a tournament play, I might go a little bit cheaper and go after like a guy that's really off the radar, because I think Scherzer will still be owned decently. I might go with a guy that's really off the radar, and Alex Cobb.
Okay, yeah. Also, I have a theory on. Yeah, Drew just finally noticed that. I have a theory.
What is the bullet hole in the?
Oh, that's just the tip of the nose on the Tin Man.
Yeah.
By the way, the Tin Man was the request of Leone getting Drew back. Why
the Tin Man?
What's that?
Like, there's so many better things you could have gone with.
You say that, but here's the thing. I looked up pictures. Check this picture out right here. When I Google image searched the Tin Man. Tell me that's not Drew Dinkmeyer right there. Can you see it?
Yeah, that's not bad.
Oh man, that's Drew Dinkmeyer.
It's not bad.
That is you. Anyways,
I still think you could have gone Barry Manilow. You could have gone Bert from Bert and Ernie.
I think Bert from Bert. That's absolutely the way you should have gone.
There's a lot of good potential there.
We still got plenty of time. I mean, come on.
I want to talk. I have a theory on the A's offense that I think you guys could probably shoot down pretty quickly. But basically, they were really bad for a large part of last week. Donaldson hit a home run, Moss hit a home run in Rogers Center. But I think a large part of their struggles, and obviously almost all of us on this show and in the chat noticed it, was their offense kind of sucked for this last week. They were in some really good stacking situations, and they didn't perform. But my theory is that Jaso missing from the lineup really sucked for them, because he was replaced by Kyle Blanks, who has like a 220 OBP for this year and is a strikeout machine. And my theory is that he's sort of the cog that makes that offense work, because his OBP is so high, and he almost always has the platoon advantage because they obviously face a lot of right-handed pitching, and they don't have a natural replacement for him in the 2-hole. So that's kind of my theory as to why they were so cold over this last week. I mean, there's obviously no way to prove that, and it doesn't have any predictive value, but that was just an idea that I had.
Yeah, that makes a little bit of sense to me. I just also think it's likely just variance.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's hard to explain Liam Hendricks, who has like a career like 5 ERA in the major leagues, having just an absolute like field day versus them.
It's never a good sign, Mike, when you have to explain your jokes in the chat. I'm just gonna throw that one out there. But keep on going, because we're all very entertained.
Drew, come on, Drew. Just let one of my jokes be funny one time. Sammy Watkins is the next Randy Moss. Oh, Leone is smarter than all of us. Okay, let's talk about. Actually, I want to know Sonny Gray or Alex Cobb for a tournament, Derek.
Sonny Gray. I think I love Alex Cobb. I've been on Alex Cobb since he was in the minors. He's incredible. But Toronto's got such good offense. The park swing today is just terrible. Most of their big bats are righties or switch hitters. I think Cobb is in a really tough spot tonight.
Okay, and you also wrote up Wade Miley versus the Padres offense. I don't necessarily ever perceive of Miley as like a real solid DFS option. Is it just based off the strength of the Padres offense?
Yeah, I mean he's an average pitcher. Padres offense isn't very good. The guy that I think's really kind of interesting though is Blake Treinen, however you pronounce his name. I don't know, like I'd never heard of him before the year, but he's pretty good. He throws 95, 96, 97. A lot of it's two seamers, but I mean that's going to get him ground balls.
You just told Davis that. I cannot believe you just mixed in velocity in that, and Davis isn't like literally out of his chair.
No,
right now.
I know. I've known that I think it's Treinen. I don't know how to say it though. I've known that he throws hard because every time he takes the mound, Kyle Cannon tweets at me. He's like, "Dude, are you watching this?" But I have more respect for the Marlins offense than I think the average DFS player does, and I don't know if that's because I'm a homer for Giancarlo Stanton and Jose Fernandez and Christian Yelich, or why it is, or because I believe that their home performance is more representative of their overall skill than their road performance or not. But I wasn't looking at him real heavy.
Yeah, I mean, he's just dirt cheap. I mean, he's the bare minimum on every side except for Draft Street. So, yeah. I mean, right away, you kind of have to consider him. And he is a pretty decent pitcher. I mean, he throws hard. He's got a sharp breaking ball. He's a little bit more set up to take out righties than he is lefties. But, I mean, at least that means he's going to be set up well against Stanton. He has, the four-seam fastball and a changeup. He uses about 20% of the time against lefties, which those are the pitches you want to get lefties out with. So, I mean, lefties could get to him, but I think just for the price and in a good matchup, and because he's a better pitcher than the price indicates and the people give him credit for, I think he's a very undervalued, overlooked option tonight.
I can get on board with that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Stanton's platoon split in terms of like at least ISO starting to close a little bit, or no? Because I know he's had 3 home runs off right-handed pitchers over the last like 7 days.
Nobody's platoon split is going to close over the course of a few days or even over the course of 2 months of a season.
Yeah.
There's so much noise in platoon splits that you can't without like a scouting take on it, like, oh, like his platoon split's closing because of this. You can't just take the numbers and be like, yeah, his platoon split is closing.
Yeah. I think that, in my opinion, I think Stanton is like in the sort of category as I think he's becoming like a top 5 offensive player in the league. That would be sort of my take on the situation, that he's just becoming that good. But maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Like there are some offenses that, or some players that you're just like, I just don't want to take a pitcher against that guy because he could ruin my night in like 3 swings. And Stanton is kind of one of, like, I don't think I've taken a pitcher against the Marlins all year, honestly. But I don't, especially for a GVP, I don't hate that pick. Is there anyone else you want to talk about, Drew?
If the weather was better in Chicago, I like Masterson as a GPP play. He's super cheap. The White Sox lineup is traditionally very right-handed. They have 3 lefties in the first 4 hitters, but only 4 lefties in the lineup as a whole. And, for the most part, those lefties aren't really, giant killers. It's Adam Eaton, Connor Gillespie, Adam Dunn, and DeAza, who hits 8. So I know Masterson's dealing with velocity loss, and he's been a bit of a train wreck this year. But that train wreck has caused his price to be exceptionally cheap. So unlike multi-starting pitcher sites, I think he's in play for tournaments. If you really want to just kind of close your eyes and not watch games tonight, you can throw Edison Volquez against the Mets. He's one of those guys who, when he's good, he's good. He's usually not. He's usually very bad, but he's also dirt cheap. Good pitching environment, below average team. So I don't mind him either. The guy, I think Cobb could win people GPPs tonight. I really believe in Cobb that much. And while the Blue Jays lineup is not great, the power side of it is right. Or while the Blue Jays lineup is not a great matchup, the power side of it is very right-handed. And Cobb does do a good job suppressing power by keeping the ball on the ground. So I think Cobb's a really interesting tournament play because I think he'll be totally off the radar for most people after the Blue Jays, put up 10 last night, and since the Blue Jays are so good in general.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. I think that he'll definitely be under-owned, and basically it's a matter of can he keep the ball in the park versus what Juan Francisco and Adam Lind, like those are the guys you're really worried about from the opposite side of the plate. And both of those guys are high K guys, so I think it's not a terrible spot for him as a tournament play. All right, yeah, let's move on to hitters. We'll talk about stacks to begin with. I'm gonna let Drew collect his rage inside when we talk about the Pirates. So I'm gonna let Derek go with one of his stacks first.
Okay. Like how are we proceeding with this weather situation? Like, are we like giving our stacks and like our plays with caveats, like, you know, weather permitting, or just ignoring some of these games, or what are we thinking?
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's your recommendation, but make whatever caveats need to be if it is a weather situation.
Yeah. Caveat everything if you need to caveat.
Okay, well, I'll stick with a pretty safe one. I like, along with the Alex Cobb line of thinking, I like the Rays tonight. They're getting a huge park boost. I think Burley's a pretty good pitcher. Obviously not as good as he's been, but you know, almost the whole lineup is going to have the platoon advantage against him in a really good park. So I like the Rays.
Yeah, especially because the guys who are in good lineup spots, like they have a weird lineup tonight, like Logan Forsythe batting batting cleanup. So I think you absolutely need to get some exposure to those guys tonight.
Forsythe and Sean Rodriguez are, you know, in the 3 and 5 spots, which are both great spots to be in. So they're going to be, you know, cheap guys to plug in if you need to.
Yeah, I'm absolutely on board with that line of thinking tonight. All right, Drew, the floor is yours for stacks and for manager bitching.
Yeah. So the 4 teams that I really liked coming into today, hitters from, were Pittsburgh, Arizona, Milwaukee, and Tampa Bay. And those are all lineups that are set up to hit left-handed pitching really well. Pittsburgh, Mike tweeted this the other day, they've had 100 less plate appearances against left-handed pitching than any other team in the league, which is really crazy, just the way the scheduling has gone early in the season. So all their guys are priced as if they basically faced right-handed pitching all season. They've got a lot of guys that hit left-handed pitching really well. Now, some of this is all gone for naught because not only is weather a concern, but the lineup is just ridiculously stupid. The fact that Jordy Mercer isn't in the lineup is one thing. The fact that he's not hitting near the top of the lineup is a whole other thing. The fact that they're playing
Clint Barnes, dude, lefty masher. Clint Barnes.
And then Starling Marte is hitting 6th for like no good reason. Harrison and Tabata giving the most plate appearances to those guys makes no sense in the world to me. So, like, Kutch is still a great play. He's underpriced. But it would have been much better to see, like, a Marte, Tabata, McCutchen, Sanchez, Parton start to a lineup that made a lot more sense than this garbage. So they're less enticing now. And they also they were a less enticing stack on the whole simply because Nice is pretty decent. And the Mets pen is pretty right-handed. But moving on, Arizona's stack is a little bit less enticing because they're hitting Parra 2nd for no good reason, and Cody Ross is hitting 7th. So that's really annoying. Ross was one of my favorite value plays overall, but that certainly takes a hit. Aaron Hill hitting 6th is super annoying, again, because Parra is hitting 2nd for no reason whatsoever. Having Parra and Montero hitting 2 and 4 is just asinine. So
why is AJ Pollock so expensive? AJ Pollock is like crazy expensive everywhere. Has he just been hot?
He's been hitting right-handed pitching really well early in the season. So that's the other thing. He's really expensive. So Arizona's a little bit less exciting as they were coming in. And then, like, Milwaukee is the one that I like the lineup that they put out. So they're the one I'm probably gravitating towards most. I think it's a big difference for Chris Davis to hit 6 as opposed to 7 or 8. And he has huge power against left-handed pitching, and power plays so well in daily fantasy. So he's a cheap guy that I like. You know, Braun, Lucroy, Gomez are all expensive guys. Weeks and Segura are kind of mid-priced. There's a lot of good options against a fly ball pitcher in a homer-prone park. So,
boom.
Yeah, I like the Brewers lineup a lot tonight.
Brewers, I think lineups basically made the Brewers. I would have said the Diamondbacks were the most attractive stack, but after seeing lineups, I think you definitely have to gravitate towards the Brewers. I think that's the... Now, Lucroy is dumb expensive on FanDuel, but on Draft Street, he's like priced like an average price catcher. So I think that Lucroy is kind of almost a must-play on Draft Street.
I wouldn't go that far because Jason Castro is really cheap on Draft Street. So
the old two-catcher lineup, Drew.
What?
The old two-catcher lineup on Draft Street.
Except until you find David Ortiz is 5.6 against Harang, which is the stupidest price. Other than like Ortiz at that price and Longoria are the two stupidest prices on Draft Street today.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Oh, somebody is
in terms of stacks tonight, I'm going to give out the Davis Maddox stack, the most obvious one ever. The Astros versus Jeremy Guthrie. Is he ever? Yeah, laugh.
When you say stack, do you actually have the balls to put the following names in your lineups? Robbie Grossman, Alex Presley, Marwin Gonzalez,
No, but these are the guys I will use without hesitation. George Springer, Jason Castro, Mark Krause. I will slot those guys in where applicable, where the price is reasonable, without even blinking. Those are auto clicks. Mark Krause is $3K. He's $3,015 on Draft Street. That's automatic.
There is a reason for that.
Oh, they're bad. But as we've seen over the last several days, when they do well, there's completely no rhyme or reason to it. Oh, Hisashi Iwakuma? Okay, we're just going to hang 4 runs up on him real quick. Oh, Yordano Ventura? Yeah, we're just going to break his UCL. Let's just go ahead and do that. I don't know. We've talked about this on the show a million times. I don't know if Springer's hot or if he's just finally transitioned his skills to Major League Baseball and is feeling comfortable. But I think Springer, from this point on, deserves to be in the conversation with the outfielders that we talk about all the time. McCutchen, guys and he's super cheap. Yeah, roll your eyes at me, Drew. But Guthrie is not a very good pitcher, and Springer has power and speed. His skills translate really well to daily fantasy.
The only thing is that.
One ridiculous week from Springer, and he's right there with McCutchen for you. I wish you were old enough to know who Chris Shelton was.
But obviously, I'm speaking I'm exaggerating a little bit. But wouldn't you agree with me? Wouldn't you agree with me that he's now playing to his pedigree? Isn't that a more accurate way to say it?
Yeah, I don't know that we have enough data to really pinpoint where Springer is. So when he was struggling significantly and he was 2,200 and people were just playing him over and over again, I thought that was probably the right move because he's probably better than that price. But now that he's going to be priced around these really talented elite players, I don't know. I'm not there yet.
Speaking of elite players, we are currently drafting. This is a new format, Davis. On this 4 times, they're rolling out some new stuff. It's 6 players and 1 starting pitcher. I was trying to draft under 2 starting pitchers, trying to get Scherzer with my second pick, and it didn't happen. So I did auto-draft Solarte, but that's okay.
I auto-drafted Miggy.
If you auto-draft, it's okay. You can come back. So we're with Magic Sports Guy. He is damp on DraftKings. That's his name, Damp. I don't know why. But and then Babex too. I don't know who that is. But if you're watching, you're going down. Continue on.
All right. Real quick before we move on to catchers, I would like Derek's take on Springer.
Where Springer's being priced, if you're trying to throw him into the category with guys like McCutchen,
I'm not. I was being ridiculous. That's not. I don't feel that way.
Okay, I think Springer is a good player. I think he's going to keep getting better. But if you look at how he's hitting the ball right now, even his home runs, they're not going that far. A lot of them are kind of just squeaking over the fence. So I'm not really paying up for Springer, especially when the matchup is non-ideal. Tonight, he doesn't have the platoon advantage, and he's in a pitcher's park. So for me, he's not really someone I'm looking at. But I do think, it's all relative. It's relative to the price, and it's relative to the matchup each day. I don't think Springer is some guy that you have to throw in there just because he's so hot right now. I don't know.
So hot right now. So hot right now.
Derek, take off your shirt. We'll show you so hot right now.
No, I think there is something to the idea though that the Astros are hackers, and when they have good days, they're going to have really good days because they sell, a lot of them sell out for power, or that's their primary hitting tool is power. So they're going to K a lot, but when they make contact, the ball's going to go far. I think that's a reasonable thing to say, and yeah, it is a pitcher's park, so whatever. I don't know. Maybe Guthrie will throw a shutout, probably. Okay, let's talk about catchers, and I'm going to let Drew talk about an Astro, Jason Castro.
Oh, Castro the Astro.
Yeah, so I think he's the best value around the industry at the catcher position. On a lot of sites, Lucroy is pretty expensive. He's probably the best overall catcher play. But Castro is priced significantly cheaper on most sites, and Guthrie just stinks against left-handed bats. Very homer-prone. He's given up like a 360 weighted on-base average to lefties the last few years. So Castro hits for a lot of power against right-handed pitching. Yeah, the park shift's a negative for him, but the matchup's just really tasty, and the price point is really nice. So he's the guy that I'm looking at on most sites as my catcher option.
Okay, are you on the same page with that line of analysis, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much on board with that.
Okay, I think where affordable, I think I would rather play Lucroy because
I like Lucroy's matchup better. You know, where you can fit him in, but with Castro's price, I can totally see where Dink is coming from.
Yeah, and I think, well, I don't know, I haven't looked over at DraftKings yet, but I think the only place where Lucroy's super outrageous expensive is on FanDuel. Is that correct, Drew?
Yeah, I mean he's 400 more than Castro on DraftKings. He's almost 2K more than him on Draft Street. Those are the three main sites that I look up because we do our cheat sheets for those. So those are meaningful. I mean, it's if you're trying to fit in top tier pitching, like $400 on DraftKings is what, like almost 10% of the salary cap. That's a meaningful difference. Or 1% of the salary cap. That's a meaningful difference. So. Like I'm finding myself more towards Castro. I don't have them separated by wide margins in our system.
Yeah, the way I normally break a tiebreaker is if I want exposure to a team, and I would rather have exposure to the Brewers than the Astros. That being said, I just talked about liking the Astros, but I obviously like the Brewers more. I think they're in a better spot. Are there any other catchers you guys like to talk about as far as like tournament options or anything, Drew?
I liked Brzezinski if he was in the lineup, but he is not.
He's not?
So, no.
Yeah, like I always like Rosario against left-handed pitching. I know Cole Hamels is good, but he's also homer-prone. The thing that sucks about Rosario is they're hitting him 7th, and he's got weather situation as well. But like he popped up. I know there was some love for Treinen earlier, but Salta Lamakia popped up decently in our model. Platoon advantage, neutral park environment, and it's pretty similar. Fenway's not great for left-handed power, which is where Saltalamaki has accrued most of his data last few years, so I don't mind him either. Those are some of the names that came up for us.
I don't dislike Yasmani Grandal either.
Yeah, he's
not in a good spot in the lineup, but he's getting a park boost.
Why do they do that to Grandal, by the way? Like, what is their deal with him?
Because they have Tommy Medica, dude.
Well, yeah, all-star. Also, the Reds lineup just came out.
I was going to point it out before. It is disgusting.
Yeah, you're feeling pretty good about Greinke tonight. We've got Donald Lutz as your 6-hole hitter, and
in the 2-hole.
Roger Bernardina is in the lineup. So wow. Greinke's in a pretty good spot tonight. I think it's a similarly gross lineup to the gross Indians lineup that Sale is going to face if that game plays. So I think you can feel pretty comfortable using Greinke tonight. Do you agree with that, Drew?
Yeah, I mean that lineup is terrible. The one thing, I don't know if that lineup has a ton of Ks in it. Is the one thing.
I don't know who Donald Lutz is.
There's a lot of little like contact hitters in that lineup. So, yes, you feel good about that lineup in Greinke. The one thing that just always annoys me about Greinke, and I had this argument with Mike earlier in the week, but like I never feel like he's as dominant as I feel like Darvish or Sale when I'm throwing them. And usually you're paying similar prices. And like Greinke's got very good stuff, but like he kind of gets by on like weak contact, ground balls. His strikeout rate's better this year, but he gets a lot of strikeouts like looking and stuff. And so I just don't feel as good about it as when I'm watching like Sale just absolutely make hitters look foolish.
No, there's no doubt about it. Greinke is an annoying pitcher. I was a Royals fan. He's been one of my favorite players. I have a jersey. I've watched him for years. He's super annoying. He never goes as deep into games as you would expect a pitcher who like kind of relies on ground balls and stuff as much as he does. But I honestly couldn't even explain it. But he also has strung together. Before his last start versus the Mets, he'd strung together the longest streak ever of 2 earned runs or less performances, and it wasn't all on BABIP that he was doing that, obviously. So as far as options go tonight, without worrying about weather, I feel comfortable with it. Moving on to the rest of middle infield, though, let's talk about some second base options. Are you still on Aaron Hill, Drew, even though he's batting further down the lineup than you want him to?
Yeah, but partially because I don't love all my other options. I mean, you can go all the way down to Forsythe. But the question, like the thing that's a little bit annoying about the Rays, if you want to like go and stack them, is the fact that if it works out, you might only get 2 at bats from the guys that you have, and so that's kind of the nuisance with like a Forsythe. But yeah, Hill was the guy I was planning on using most. Ricky Weeks probably ekes into that conversation now alongside Hill for me, since he's got a little bit of a better lineup spot. But those were the 2 guys I was looking at for the most of the day.
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of second base options tonight. I think Daniel Murphy is definitely in the conversation. I think both of the Cardinals guys that qualify, Carpenter where he qualifies at second, and Colton Wong. There's someone else.
Jorko?
Dietrich isn't even a bad play. Jorko. Yeah, Jorko's a solid play. There's a lot of second basemen tonight.
Also, Jerko still has that ridiculous price tag on Draft Street if you're playing there. As far as second, what do you guys think about Josh Harrison basically continuing the theme of Pirates versus left-handed bats? He is right-handed. He is leading off against a lineup that is very platoon. Are you completely off that, Drew?
No, I don't think Harrison's any good. Let me recheck that just to make sure. But because he was a Cubs farmhand, so I paid attention to him a lot coming up through the minors. For his career against left-handed pitching, he's got a 294 weighted on base average. So
that's not great. That seems like it could be better, basically.
I mean, they've got a guy that has a 429 weighted on base average against left-handed pitching in his brief major league career that crushed lefties all through the minors, but he can't even get in the lineup over Clint Barnes. So what do I know?
Clint Barnes, dude, righty masher, lefty masher.
Lefty-righty masher.
The thing I really like about the Pirates guys tonight is the park shift is just enormous. It's like close to 50% in terms of home runs in righty versus lefty matchups going from PNC to Citi Field. Like, it's huge. Even though I kind of like Nice, I mean, the park shift is really hard to ignore for them tonight.
I think I would rather play Forsythe than Harrison, though. I think I'm going to go make some changes to my lineups and get him in, because I do think that I just feel it feels like one of those nights when the Rays BABIP somebody to death with the way that this lineup is constructed tonight. And I mean, God, Forsythe in the 3-hole. Madden is crazy, man. He's crazy. Let's talk about shortstop, though, because I think another annoying thing about the Rays hitters is that their positional eligibility is different on every single site. Like, Forsythe is going to be a third base on one site, shortstop on another, second on another. Like, you never know which site where these guys are going to be at. I couldn't see anyone I really did like at shortstop tonight. So who are some guys that you were looking at, Drew?
I mean, I had a ton. I had Jordy Mercer, then I lost him, and then the 2 Rays. Like, Sean is only shortstop eligible on FanDuel, but Unell is super cheap everywhere, and he's hitting leadoff. That's a huge bump to his value. Usually hits 6, 7, 8. And he's the guy that's not going to get subbed out in the game. You know, Sean might lose at bats in the game late, although having Joyce in there already hitting 9th helps a little bit. Forsythe might lose at bats when they bring in DeJesus or whatever they want to do. But I don't think that'll be the case with Unell. He's their primary shortstop, and Zobrist, their backup shortstop, is out. So, they're not going to replace him with like Cole Figueroa. So I really like Yunel, and he's super cheap everywhere. Gene Segura is also pretty cheap. I like him less as a hitter than I do Yunel. I actually like Yunel more as a hitter. So I'm leaning towards Yunel because he's even cheaper, but I wouldn't argue Segura either.
Hey, Drew.
Yeah.
Hey, Drew. I have a question for you. I agree that on Draft Street, I think he's like 3.5 or 3.6, and and on FanDuel he's close to minimum salary. But on DraftKings he's 3.5. Would you rather play him at 3.5 or Segura at 3.9?
I like Yunel more than Segura if they were
really.
And nobody else would agree with me on that, as my guess.
Wow.
But
Segura has just been awful versus left-handed pitching though in his career.
He's heating up, man. That guy is red hot, dog. I'm going with my gut on this.
He was crazy good against left-handed pitching in the first half of last season, and now for his career, he's got a 294 weighted on base average against left-handed pitching. So, like, he must have been really dreadful the last half of last year and then early on this year. Like I said, I don't mind the play, but I prefer Escobar. He's got a 340 weighted on base average against left-handed pitching since 2011.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page as Dink. I love the Escobar play tonight, leading off with his price tag. I like Segura, I think, more than Drew does. Like, if their prices were the same, I'd definitely take Segura. I think he's a better hitter. But I love the Escobar play. I don't think Barmes is a terrible play. I think maybe Rollins is in the conversation, but I really think Escobar is the way to go tonight.
Okay. Moving on then. Let's talk about some first basemen because I think
somebody asked about Everth in the chat, Cabrera.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: he's better against left-handed pitching, but lefties also limit the running game more, and so much of his value is predicated on the running game. So I don't hate him, but he falls well below those other two guys for me.
Yeah,
that's
also
something
Miley,
I consistently forget.
That the lefties limit the running game?
Yeah, I completely forget to factor that in sometimes, like when I go to make lineups, then I get mad when my guys don't run.
Yeah, that's important. And Miley isn't a bad pitcher, and Everth isn't getting the same park shift that the rest of the team is because he's not a power guy. So I don't know. He's okay, but he's not someone I'm really looking at tonight.
Right on. All right, first base. For me, I'm playing Goldschmidt. I just think he's in a really good spot tonight, and I think he's in a good spot, and he's someone that I don't end up playing all that much, and I think it's probably because he doesn't have the platoon advantage all that often, and he is rather pricey. But are you on board with that line of thinking, Derek?
Absolutely, Goldie's my top first baseman tonight overall, and I think even value-wise, I think he presents a little bit of value over what he's gonna cost you. So I like Goldie a lot tonight.
Okay, let's see if Drew thinks we're stupid.
No, he's a top 4 hitter in our model, in all the different power on base, whatever model we have, he's top 4. So I can't argue with that at all. I of course like David Ortiz, and he's a little bit cheaper than Goldschmidt, so that's my only argument against Goldschmidt.
You like Ortiz more?
No, if they're priced the same, I like Goldschmidt more, and I probably would even be willing to pay up a little more for Goldschmidt. But on sites where the price discrepancy is huge, I do not mind taking Ortiz at all.
What about on Draft Street? I think he's pretty cheap there, Drew.
Yeah, but he's a DH, and you're being a jerk. So the tough thing about Draft Street is, the pricing's really tough. So Goldschmidt at $10K, if you're going to spend on pitchers, is going to be tough to fit in.
I did not have a hard time fitting Goldschmidt into my Draft Street lineup at all with the way the Rays hitters worked out. Longoria is 4.8 on Draft Street. Yeah, I did not have a hard time with Draft Street today.
Yeah, I'm guessing you're not taking somebody that I think really highly of.
Who?
Ryan Braun.
Nope, I got Braun in. I'm using Mark Krause as my DH though.
Well, there we go.
Bro, Mark Krause is in a good spot tonight.
Krause is in a decent spot tonight.
You're taking Krause over Ortiz.
No, he's 2K cheaper, and it allows me to get in.
Listen to yourself. He's 2K cheaper. He's 2% cheaper than David Ortiz. Do you think the difference in their skill sets and matchup warrants only a 2% difference in price.
Hey, Kraus is only striking out 27% of the time this year, dude.
Bro.
So, like...
Bro, opportunity cost, bro. Take the opportunity cost of not playing Ortiz.
Here's the thing about David Ortiz. I have to actively root for him to do bad so that Drew doesn't get to make me do something stupid when we're out in San Francisco or whatever, because I stupidly made a bet with Drew where Charlie Blackmon's weighted on base average this year was going to be better than David Ortiz's, and it doesn't look like that's going to be a thing. Like, it doesn't look like that's going to turn out in my favor.
Did he give you odds on that, or was that just, like, straight up?
It's just...
Davis did this straight up when Blackmon had, like, a 50-point WOBA advantage on him, and I was like, Davis, you realize we're literally, like, 2.5 weeks into the season. This is such... And he's like, no, Blackmon's for real, dude. Blackmon's for real. I was like, even if he is real, he's probably not better than Ortiz.
Yeah, Blackmon's for real, but there's no way I would take him over Ortiz.
All right, listen, guys. I'm new to baseball. Baseball's hard.
We're being mean to Davis. All right, well,
all the singular ladies.
I'll throw out a couple other first basemen to deflect attention.
Please do.
If you're not going with Ortiz or Goldie, if you want to go cheaper and you don't want to go like dirt cheap, sticking your hand 6 feet under to pick up Mark Krause, I think Garrett Jones is in a decent spot. I think Lucas Duda is in a good spot, although he's inexplicably batting 6th instead of 5th with Bobby Abreu ahead of him. I don't know why that's a thing.
Managers for the win.
Yeah. If he was in the 5th spot, I'd like him better.
Does anybody love Megacron versus Elias tonight?
I like Megacron.
It's Crone.
It is Crone, but it's fun. It's more fun to say Cron.
Okay.
I haven't made up my mind as to whether or not he's good. Someone, Spreadopedia on Twitter the other day, he runs a gambling site the other day. Basically, he told me a couple things about him. One, he was the only player in college to ever get 3 hits off of Strasburg in a game. And 2, the reason that he didn't hit for any power last year in AA was because he had a torn labrum and he played through it. So I don't know if Crone, whatever, is actually any good, but I know that his name is fun to say and that he hits in a fun lineup.
He's in a great spot too. He's been hitting 5th behind Trout, Pujols, and Kendrick. I mean, it's a good spot for against the left-handed pitcher, and he's really cheap. So like, I actually have him in on a main team lineup right now on a site.
Swag, Drew. Yeah, okay, let's move on though. Third baseman, for me, I'm using the stacks we've already talked about.
Can I say one last thing on first base?
You can.
Tournament play, Brandon Moss. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely.
Well, is that your under the radar home run of the day, Drew?
Possibly.
No. So I'm using Longoria and Prado, basically letting price dictate which one I take. Are you on board with that, Derek?
I'm on board with both, especially Longoria. I think Mark Reynolds too. I like. I mean, obviously the spot in the order isn't ideal, but I like Reynolds a lot. Those are kind of the guys that I'm on. I think Carpenter is in a decent spot. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I think I'm going to end up with either Longoria or Prado.
Drusif?
Yeah, I like that direction. I don't mind Sandoval against Arrieta, who really struggles getting lefties out.
Bro, he's hot right now.
Yeah.
So hot. So yeah, he's another guy. But yeah, for me, the decision's probably going to pivot around Longoria and Prado. Cool.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it any more than that. I think that's a situation that explains itself today. So outfield then. I'm loving the Brewers outfield with Chris Davis and Braun. Braun's available at a little bit of a reduced price across the industry compared to what his splits would say you should take him versus lefties. So I think he's kind of an automatic play. You guys on board with that?
Love Braun tonight.
Number 1 hitter in our model.
Crush Davis. We're mini Crush Davis, with a K. We on board with that too?
Yep.
He's all right. What about Cargo or Carlos Gomez rather? Are you ignoring him?
No, it's just hard to get him in with Braun.
With
most
Braun
sites.
there, yeah.
If you're taking Greinke, it's kind of hard to get both of those guys in.
I think that's a cool way to play a tournament though, is to fade Braun and take Carlos Gomez. I bet Tommy G would approve in chat.
Yeah, Tommy G's definitely on board with that. The only thing that I'm worried about with Davis is his OBP is like super low, so taking him on draft street for 5K, like it is a risky play, I would say, because he could easily give you the Kyle Blanks where he goes 0 for 4 with 3Ks, like that's in play. So that is a little bit concerning to me. That being said, I'm still making that play, but that's just something to weigh out while you're doing your lineup. Rank Diamondbacks outfielders in terms of preference, Drew.
Diamondbacks outfielders in terms of preference.
Like considering value, like cost and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been Cody Ross, but lineup position makes it a little bit closer between Ross and Pollock. I'd probably still take Ross. His price is just so cheap around the industry compared to Pollock. On some sites, it's a little bit closer, and Pollock's lineup spot is a huge edge. I wouldn't even consider Parra.
You would not consider Parra just because he's not leading off?
No, I mean, if you're doing like a Diamondback stack and you want to use him, that's fine, but like, he's terrible against left-handed pitching. Okay,
I want to talk about Carlos Quentin, because that dude mashes lefties, and he is outside of Petco, in a hitter's park, batting in the 3-hole. Like, he's 2.9 on FanDuel. Like, you're not ever going to get someone with his splits at 2.9 on FanDuel. Like, he came in the other night versus the Cubs, hit a pinch hit home run. Like, all the dude does is mash lefties. So I think I'm locked in on him for 2.9 on FanDuel. Are you on board with that, Derek? Or are you not a Quentin guy?
No, I'm super on board with that. I'm looking up just how big the park shift is, but I'm definitely on board with that.
Yeah, and I like the Padres against left-handed pitching a little bit more than Derek does. Like, Denorfia hits lefties really, really well. Headley's kind of neutral.
On Chris Denorfia.
What? What's wrong with Chris Denorfia?
He went 0 for 5 for me the other night.
All right, so cross him off then.
No, it's just I hate when guys. 0 for 5s are the worst on FanDuel.
So, yeah, I mean, I like Denorfia and Quentin as two Padres cheapies that you can get. Quentin's my bigger preference. Quentin's got like a 410 weighted on base average against left-handed pitching since 2011. Denorfia's got like a 370. And again, the park shift is huge for them. So I like both those guys a lot.
Cool. All right, then let's move on to guaranteed dong time. One obvious, one under the radar. Drew, you can go first.
For my obvious, I'm going to go with Ryan Braun.
Ryan Braun. All right, under the radar.
Under the radar.
Don't say Brennan Moss, please.
Fine, I won't say Brandon Moss. I was going to say Brandon Moss. Under the radar. Is Quentin under the radar or no?
Yeah. That was going to be mine. So
yeah,
yes.
But I knew that was going to be Davis's. I knew it was going to be Davis's. So yeah, you can have Quentin.
Okay, I'll go Quentin then.
All right, Derek.
Braun would have been mine, but I'll go Goldie as my obvious since Braun is out. Why didn't we talk about Andrew McCutchen as an outfielder? I mean, is he like off everyone's radar?
We were too busy. We were too busy unleashing fury on Jordy Mercer.
Yep.
Okay, so I won't count him then.
He is awesome though, and he is cheap.
He's 3.6 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I like that.
Tasty.
Yep, gotta do that.
All right, let's do Lucas Duda as my under the radar.
Okay,
good call yesterday, by the way.
McCutchen.
Goldie.
Okay, yeah. All right. Does Brian McCann count as an obvious one? I don't think Lance Lynn's very good.
You're wrong.
No, that one, I don't think
Lynn
that would be
is
obvious.
Which one is the bad? Okay, I always forget. Which one is the bad St. Louis pitcher that everyone thinks is good? Is it Shelby Miller? Which one is the guy?
Miller and Lance Lynn are like trending in the same exact direction. It's getting a little freaky.
Everyone seems to think Lynn is worse and is terrible, and I love
Which one has the 5 xFIP?
That would be
right now. It's probably Shelby.
Yeah, it's got to be Shelby.
All right.
Yeah, Lynn's is 347. So.
Okay.
Lynn is like the best Bronson Arroyo ever created.
Okay.
Wait, did you just call Lynn like Bronson Arroyo plus?
He's the best Bronson Arroyo that's ever lived. He's great. He's so crazy good against right-handed bats, and he's really bad against left-handed bats, but not as bad as Arroyo.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
Derek was about to go.
I hate when people hate on Lynn because he's good. Like, Tommy G, Lynn blows. Stand corrected.
All right. Chris Davis is my obvious dong, and my under-the-radar dong is Mark Krause, obviously. Everyone knew that was coming. More importantly, though, the I'm going to regret this, or the I've made a terrible mistake. Who are you most going to regret either playing everywhere or fading everywhere tonight, Drew?
I don't have enough McCutcheon right now, so that is going to be a rather large regret of mine.
Yeah. I actually haven't made room for McCutcheon anywhere yet, so I'm thinking that maybe I've made a mistake somehow there. I think my regret, though, is going to be not playing Chris Sale. I think they're going to somehow find a way to get that game off, and I'm going to be scared off and not have Sale when he goes 7 innings pitched, 12 Ks.
It's going to be the worst if that happens, because everyone will be on Twitter saying, I was totally going to play Sale until I saw the weather. Well,
you know who won't, though? You know who won't? Tommy G.
Tommy G. He don't give a fuck.
He won't do that.
Yeah, no,
Tommy's never been that guy.
No. He goes by gut, and he never complains. So, yeah, that will definitely happen, though. If Sale goes and pitches a Jim, you're going to see everybody without realizing.
And last time that happened, the reverse where Greinke pitched and Sale was in the and Sale was the clear game. I had Sale and I just had to shut up because everyone was bitching about how Greinke did bad, and I had Sale who had a perfect game through 5, and I just didn't want anyone to yell at me on Twitter, so I couldn't even brag about it. That was the worst. Derek, what's your regret for the night?
Well, since you took Sale, let's do. We didn't talk much about Giants bats, and I don't think I'm going to have many of them in my lineup, but I think they could have a sneaky good night, so I think I'm going to regret not going with more Giants.
Oh, no, my regret is going to be relying on the Rays bats versus a lefty, because they've been so putrid versus left-handers this year, and all of their career averages say they shouldn't, but I have a feeling that when I have Forsythe and Yunel Escobar go 2 for 9 with 2 singles, I'm going to be kind of mad about it.
You're going to feel so much better about it when you go check Mark Burley's game log and see what he did to the Rays earlier this year.
What did he do?
He had an 11K complete game shutout against the Nintendo.
Awesome. I fucking hate Mark Burley and Eric Bedard. They're both terrible. Let's talk about this Elite Draft, though, David. Because I made my roster switches to get Miguel Cabrera out of there.
Dang it!
So who does everyone think that has the edge on here? I kind of like my team, actually. Surprisingly, normally I hate my team after this thing. Basically, whoever wins out of Sonny Gray or Max Scherzer, me or Magic Sports Guy is going to be in a good spot.
Yeah.
You have
a Jesus Guzman?
Yeah, I got to get him out.
Drew, what are you doing to me, man?
I'm not done late swapping yet.
Yeah, I made the mistake of thinking again that you could play 2 pitchers on there. I will say that this week let me pull up because DP was making fun of my gut earlier, and I'll probably make fun of my movies. But I will say that Grant is doing some testing with the new format on DFS Elite, so get over there and shoot him an email, grant@fanium.com, or on Twitter @grantgurton.com. As far as your thoughts about the new format over there at DFS Elite. They're trying to make it as good of a product as you can. So we'll be doing more drafts on the show with audience members, so that will be fun. And hopefully everyone will like the new format that Grant is rolling out. But I think that's it. Guys, I know we've got to go. We're running over. Drew, they can find you at rotoexperts.com. And look for the Photoshop of Drew and Mike basically being so handsome. But yeah, Drew does have a heart regardless of what Leone says. they fantasy rundown. And then Derek and Davis can be found at Fantasy Insiders. So I think that's it. Guys, do you have any closing words?
Rays. No. Why? Why am I doing this to myself? Logan Forsythe is not a 3-hole hitter.
You think you like maybe take too much into consideration as far as the holes, Davis?
Yes. I love holes. No, my biggest mistake all year has been playing too many leadoff hitters just because they were batting leadoff. That's been like the #1 consistent mistake I've made.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, well, that'll be it. We'll see y'all tomorrow for the Wednesday show with Derek, me, and Tuttle, as well as Davis. So for Drew, Derek, Davis, and myself, David, we are done. We'll see you later. Come on. Guys, come on. Where you at? Where you at, Cardi? Take your shirt off. Oh! Oh! All right. Well, that will be good to end on right there.
Oh, God. The Rays are going to suck. Mark Krause isn't going to dog, and Oklahoma City's going to lose to San Antonio tonight, and I'm going to be, like, on suicide watch.